So how did I almost lose my job on my first day at work? When I came into the home, I met the brother. The brother knew a little bit of English, but if at all you were not keen enough, you wouldn't understand what he was saying. So one day he took me for a test drive. And when he took me for a test drive, he told me, come and drive, I want to see how you're driving so that I can tell my brother and we decide if we can keep you or not. So when I went into the car, I reversed it and was ready to go. He told me, okay, let's go and join the road. When I joined the road, I immediately went to the left because I was used to driving on the left back in my country. I didn't know that in the UAE they drive from the right. So when I entered the road, I immediately went to the left. He got mad. He got mad and then swerved the car to the right. He told me, you're only supposed to drive from the right, not the left. Up front there was a roundabout, but as we were about to approach the roundabout, he received a phone call. When he received a phone call, he told me back. So when he told me back, in my mind, when he told me back, because I knew that his English was fair, when he told me back, I thought he was telling me that we go back home. Like anyone, like I think when you're told back, the first thing that comes to your mind is going back, right? That was not the case. When he told me back, he was meaning park. He got mad and told me to get out of the driver's seat. He came, entered, drove the car, and we went back home. He called the woman that had connected me to the job and he was like, the person that you gave me to start driving for my family doesn't know how to drive. She doesn't know anything. I don't know. You told us that she knows how to drive from back in her country. So the woman reached up to me and asked what the issue was. I told her we were driving, and then he told me back. When he told me back, I was reversing the car to go back home. The woman was like, no, when he said back, he was meaning park. Hello and welcome back to my corner. My name is Sharifa Ahmed, and I would like to share a story of my ever first time coming to the UAE, my first time experience, my first job, and how I almost got fired on the first day I reported for work. I came to the UAE in early 2019 and I came as a private driver on an employment visa. So when they took me to the home that I was going to work for, I was received by two women. One was the wife to my boss, the one that I was speaking to when I was back in Uganda, and then the other one was the wife to the brother. So there were two brothers in the home and the grandmom. So I arrived late in the night, so they immediately showed me to my room, and the next morning they called upon some driver. She was a neighbor working for a neighboring home. She had been in the UAE for almost 4 years, so she knew how to express herself in Arabic. Me coming from Uganda, I didn't know any Arabic, and the people that I found at home unfortunately didn't know how to express themselves in English that well. So they needed a translator to relay some information to me. So they called upon her, and when she came, they told her of what my duties were supposed to be if at all I start driving, and they also told her that before I start driving, I was supposed to be receiving half the salary that we had agreed upon before me coming for the job. Yes, the salary was not that much. If you know, like a first-time driver in the UAE, you do not get that much salary. So just imagine if you're getting half. They went ahead and told me that my boss, the one that I was speaking to when I was back in Uganda, had traveled on a business trip, so he was not at home, and he was said to be coming back after 2 weeks. So they told me I had to wait for him to take me to the driving school. Lucky enough, before me traveling to come for the job, he had told me that he had already booked me a slot at the driving school. So when I arrived, my only duty was to go to the driving school, register, and then kickstart my classes. So I asked the driver that was acting as a translator to help me get to know the bus number that takes me into the city, and then the bus number that takes me from the city to the driving school. So she gave me all the information that I needed to travel around the UAE, gave me a bus card, and because they told me that I was supposed to be receiving half salary before I get my license and start driving, I took the initiative and decided to send myself to school. Lucky enough, I had come with some money from Uganda, so I was able to facilitate my transportation and my driving lessons. My theoretical classes were slated from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So from 2 p.m. I booked for driving lessons. I booked for driving lessons because there were cars outside the driving institute. If at all you needed a trainer, you could go and book one. So I booked one car and I was training for 2 hours. Each hour was 50 dirhams, so I was spending 100 on driving lessons on a daily, and the transportation wasn't that much because I was using a bus card. I could only spend like roughly 8 dirhams every day for transportation. So there came one Monday morning. I got the first bus, the one for 7:40, went into the town center, and then took another bus to take me to the driving school. Reached at the reception, registered, and then I was directed on where I was supposed to take our classes from. They were teaching us the road signs and the scenario cases of driving, like how to drive during adverse weather conditions, because the UAE weather changes every now and then. They experience winter, summer, sandstorms, and fog, among other conditions. So you need to know how to drive during those weather conditions. So after my theoretical classes, I was able to book for my theoretical test, which is supposed to be oral. They ask you questions and you're supposed to respond. I booked the theoretical test a day after my classes were done, because we were told that if anyone was ready, it's okay, they can book for their test the next day. So I booked for my test the next day, because coming into this training, I had promised myself that I'm going to spend only 2 weeks for the theoretical classes, the driving lessons, and also get my license, because I wanted my boss to come back and I have the license at hand, so that I could receive full salary at the end of the month. So I booked my test the next day, and I booked it for 10 a.m. in the morning. I came for the test, I did the test, and lucky enough, I passed the test. So after my theoretical test, because I was taking driving lessons as I was studying, I was also ready for the driving test. So when I knew that I had passed the theoretical test, I went to the reception and booked for my driving test. I had planned to take the first bus to take me into the city, because the test that I had booked was for 11 a.m. I had planned to spend like 3 hours in transit, and then leave 30 minutes to prepare myself for the driving test. So when I waited for the bus, for the one that I was supposed to take, the early bus for 7:40, unfortunately it came and it was out of service. So that meant it was not supposed to carry any passengers into the city. I had to walk to the next town, get their bus into the city, and when I got their bus, I arrived into the city like around at around 10, and then I had to wait for the next bus to take me from the town center to the driving institute. I arrived at the driving institute at exactly 11:25. That meant I was already late by 25 minutes. Lucky enough, the slot that I was going to take the test with, I think they were also delayed by some stuff which I do not know about. So I rushed into the driving institute, went to the reception, asked where those that were going to take the test were registering from. They sent me up to the first floor. I went to the first floor and I found the woman that was registering closing the book. That meant she had already registered those that were supposed to take the test that very day, and I was supposed to rebook for the test. Rebooking meant I had to spend more money to book for the next slot. So I stayed there wondering what I was going to do. And then the man that she was supposed to hand over the list to for those that were going to take the test that very day came and was picking the list. So he saw me pleading with the woman and asked where the problem was. I told him of my issues, and then he told the woman to register me. He was like, there are only 6 people on this paper. The maximum is supposed to be like 15. Why don't you just register her and let her take the test? Good enough, the bus hasn't left and we have not started with the driving test. So the woman registered me and off I rushed into the bus. So it is supposed to be like this. There is supposed to be a bus that is following behind the car from which you're going to take the driving test. So when I got into the bus, number 1 was already in the car up front, ready to take their test. So we exited from the driving institute parking and went onto the road. As number 1 was driving, they were telling number 2 to prepare herself because she was going to go in next. So number 1 went, they came back, they had failed. Number 2 went, they failed. Number 3, they had failed. Number 4 had failed. But when I got into when I got into the bus, I found one local lady. She had taken the test for like 6 times, and all the 6 times she was failing. So she was nervous and she asked if she could take my number 7 because she wanted to come last, and asked if it was okay for me to take her number. She was number 6. So we exchanged numbers. I became number 6, she became number 7. So when they called for number 5 went in, they also failed. And then they called for number 6. So that meant it was my turn. I got out of the bus, went into the car, and then checked my mirrors, checked the dashboard, aligned my mirrors to my suitability, and then put on my seatbelt. When I put on my seatbelt, I was told to start the car. I started the car, and the way these cars are designed, the same pedals that you have on the driver's side are the same pedals that are on the co-driver's side. Like the gas and brake pedal on the driver's side are the same ones that are situated on the co-driver's side. Just that, and this is done like in case of an emergency, the co-driver can react immediately and prevent an accident. So when they told me to start the car, I started the car, indicated to the left for me to join the road, and then released the handbrake and was ready to go. When I put in drive and stepped on the gas pedal a little bit, the car was only racing, it was not going anywhere. So I wondered why the car was racing, yet my foot was not on the brake pedal. I had released the handbrake. I had done everything for the car to be moving, but the car was not going anywhere. So when I looked around the car, I saw that the guy was stepping on the brake pedal. So I asked if he could take his foot off the brake pedal and we can go. He was shocked and he took off the foot from the brake pedal, and I joined the road. The woman at the back told me next roundabout, right. I indicated right and went to the right. Then they told me next roundabout, left. I indicated to the left and yes, exited to the left. Then I was told next roundabout, full roundabout, left. So I had to make a full roundabout and come back to the starting point, and then later on make a left and exit the roundabout. As soon as I exited the roundabout, I was told to park. And where they were telling me to park, there was a fire hydrant, and from the theoretical lessons that we had learned, we were not supposed to park close to the fire hydrant. So when the woman told me to park, I did not park. I told her we were not supposed to park close to fire hydrants. Then she was like, it's okay, I'm just telling you to park so that the next person can come in and take their own test. So I did not park. I just went up front, and in front there was a bus stop, so I went and parked at the bus stop. Yes, we're not supposed to park at the bus stops as well, but at least we can wait from there. So I parked at the bus stop, put on my double indicators and stopped the car. When I stopped the car, I saw her writing something on the paper, and then they handed me my pass slip. You don't know the amount of happiness I felt when they handed me my pass slip with an indication pass on top of the paper. So that meant I had passed the test. I went into the bus and everybody was rooting for me. And then number 7 was up next. So she walked slowly, went into the car, and lucky enough she also passed. So from a slot of 7 people that took the test, we were only 2 that passed the test. So when we went back to the driving institute, and I was told to go to the reception and register so that my driver's license can start to be processed. I gave in my address because once it's done, they were supposed to deliver it to the address that you had given them at the driving institute. So I went back home, and mind you, all this time me going for the theoretical classes and going for the driving lessons and taking the test, nobody at home knew what I was doing. They thought I was going to a friend of mine who was taking me around the city for me to get used to the roads before I could start driving. They didn't know that I was going to the driving school and I was taking my lessons for me to get my driver's license. My boss came back like 6 days after, and before he came back, I had received my license. My license had already been delivered at home, so I had my license at hand. So he came, and one morning he was like, "Sharifa, prepare yourself. We are going to the driving school so that you can start off with your lessons." I told him I had already finished taking my lessons, and he was like, "No, I'm not talking about the driving school from back home in Uganda. No, I'm talking about the one in the UAE so that you can get your license." Then I told him, "Yes, I'm also talking about the driving institute here in the UAE. I've already finished everything, wait for my classes, and here is my license." He was like, "How did you do it? How did you do it?" Then I was like, I asked the neighboring driver of everything that is needed for me to go to the driving school, and then I went, and then he asked who was facilitating my transportation and all that. I told him I had come with some money from Uganda, so that's the money that I used. He asked for the amount of money that I had used for him to compensate, and so when I told him about the money that I had spent, he paid me double. So I got 1,200, and that is the first money that I received. So he was like, "Oh, you've already gotten the license. Now it's my duty for me to get the car." So he started planning for bringing the car into the house so that I could start off with my duties. People do not have a P in their alphabet, so when he said back, he was meaning park. How would I have known that when he said back, he was meaning park? So that's how I almost lost my job, just because of a mispronunciation of a word. Thank you for watching, and if at all you like this video, kindly go ahead and comment, like the video, and also share your first time experiences traveling to a new country.